And welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, where we take things from movies, TV shows, pop culture, try to create them in the real world and test them one-to-one from the media they come from. Now today we're going to be looking at a Star Wars weapon, a little bit of an iconic weapon, and it's not the lightsaber and it's not the blaster. We're going to be looking at the GAFFI stick. Now you're probably wondering, if you're not like a real hardcore fan, you're probably like, well, what's that exactly? Well, it's one of the weapons wielded by the Tusken Raiders. They feature pretty predominantly throughout, a lot of the Tatooine scenes. Featured in things like A New Hope, Attack of the Clones, and the Book of Boba Fett TV series, whatever you may think of it. The GAFFI stick is basically a big melee weapon, a big war club, I would describe it as. Now, the reason why I'm doing today's episode is because a little while ago on the community tab, I put up a poll, and I'll let you guys decide on what you would want to see in an upcoming episode, and the GAFFI stick won, so that's what we're going to be doing. Usually when it comes to episodes like these, I go in pretty neutral, and I do have an inkling of how things are going to go one way or another. I mean, it is my job at the end of the day to make and test weapons, but this is one of those ones where I'm like, I'm pretty sure this one's going to be really good. It's going to be really good. It's going to be really good, but it's going to be fun. The GAFFI stick is a weapon that's based upon a real world weapon, very, very closely, I might add, and I believe you pronounce it Totokia. I'm not sure how to say it. Totokia, which is a weapon from Fiji, basically a war club, and I think it's going to be very valid, not specifically because it was a historical weapon, but because it concentrates all that force, all that leverage on a tiny point. Now, I believe the historical versions of these weapons, the real world version of these weapons, were made out of wood. So I think the club aspect is gonna hold up and be pretty good. However, when it comes to the other end, it's basically a butt spike, so you can also thrust with it, which I actually think is a pretty interesting design and a pretty interesting combination. You basically get a club and kind of a spear. Interesting, but let's get into the build, because this one was honestly a pain. It was a pain to do this, but let's get to it. So the build for the GAFFI stick was kind of an involved project. This one took quite a while. It was a lot of effort. Now, honestly, what happened was I found a reasonably sized stick club looking thing, and that's what I wanted to use. But I didn't really want to use too many, electric tools. I just decided to start hand carving it with a knife. I have no idea why. I was in a weird mood, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do this the really long, difficult way. But I ended up carving out somewhat of a close shape to the original club. Then I charred the surface of the club. I do want this thing to kind of hold together, and I am a little bit worried because it is still somewhat of a moist piece of wood. So after charring the handle, I machined the center spike. Now, carving this out, I don't think it would take a long time, and I don't think it would be very strong. So I just machined the center spike out of aluminum and drilled a hole through the club and attached it that way. Then after that, I oiled up the wood handle and added the steel butt spike end portion to it, and that pretty much concludes the build. All right, we are out here ready to smash some things with our GAFFI stick. Honestly, I think this thing is going to do some damage. I don't know, maybe it's just intuition, maybe it's just my Giga Chad brain here. I just think we're gonna do something crazy. Honestly, this one should be a breeze. But I am very curious about the dynamic of obviously having a big club, then going over to some thrusts. So let's start with a water bottle. Obviously we're gonna the water bottle up. This is not a surprise to anybody, but we're working our way up to some other mediums. So, goodbye water bottle. Oh no, Tony got a bit wet. Anyways, let's move on to a coconut, something a little bit harder. Turns out the only thing that can stop the Tusken Raiders is just one moody boy, huh? I want this coconut to disappear, so this is my... Want to see a magic trick? Time for the coconut to disappear. I don't know what just happened. Where'd the coconut go? I mean, I don't think I hit it this far. Oh, there it is. This is your, sorry. This is your brain on drugs. Do you remember that ad? Maybe that was a bit of a boomer for that one. But that spike, it penetrated it unconsensually. It was, yeah, that's what I expected, really, honestly. Next up, next coconut. Something has disappeared from here. Once again, the GAFFI stick just here's what remains of my holder. I'll have to repair that again. Next up, we've got our pumpkin squash, whatever you want to call it, from your region of the world. What we'll do is we go for a big strike, and then we come over for a spike. I mean, yeah. What do you think of that? That's a hole. Grade A commentary on this channel only. If you haven't already, you should consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it and helps out the channel. And thank you to everybody who's already You had one job. Subscribe. Hit it with the stick. Come over. That felt less climactic than I originally intended. All right, what are my preliminary thoughts on the bonk stick? Honestly, this thing is performing incredibly. However, we have a couple more tests left, and that is, of course, against Tony. On here, on these shoulders, I've put some steel plates. Now, these are not like proper armor steel plating. However, it is still steel, and it is like maybe one step above LARP grade. That's kind of where I'd place this, maybe even LARP grade. So it is steel though, it is steel. That is important to know. So the first thing I'm gonna do is use our big bonk stick point right on that steel, just to see what we get. He's just so annoying. He annoys me so much. Oh, that's not good. Yeah. Tyrant, your weapon has suffered a catastrophic failure. I will invite you to shake my hand and f*** off. As Forged in Fire would say. Have we got a good angle on that? Yeah, I just want to let you guys know, yeah. Like I said, this is a damp log. This one wasn't completely dry, so it's basically split, which has let the steel basically come through. But how I would use it if it was still completely intact is strikes, strikes, strikes. Then come down here for the leverage, bang. Maybe even if I was gonna do it this way, kind of like a spear. It's very flaccid. Okay, but what did we do to the steel? Well, we did that. I'll get a close up for you guys to see, but it obliterated. It obliterated it. All right, I'm gonna do one hit on Tony just to finish this out, but that, basically with the weapon suffering a catastrophic failure, the problem solved itself. Now I have two. I mean, I was bound to break one of my weapons eventually, you know. I actually don't think that I've had a catastrophic failure in testing, have I? I can't think of any. We've had a weapon break in the middle of the episode. All right, let's get to final thoughts. I don't really think I can use this much more. Like I can, but I don't really think it's a GAFFI stick anymore. I feel like that extra butt spike does add to it a lot. So what did I think of it? Well, it everything up. Like I said at the beginning, this is one of those ones where we all kind of know what's going to happen. It is a monster. I do like the dynamic of having a big spike on the end to be able to kind of hit, also to be able to swing, gives you extra leverage. Then on top of that, you can swing it around and kind of use it like a little spear, I guess. So let's get to Tyrant's initial thoughts score, or TITS for short. So starting off with comfort. Pretty good. It's pretty comfortable. I liked it. In terms of like a rating though, probably somewhere around the 7 or 8 mark. Somewhere around there is fair, I think. There is some things that I could have done to make this more comfortable, but in a general sense, the general shape, the general design, I don't see a problem with it. Next up, let's actually talk about the design itself. So, in terms of the design, I'm actually a big fan of it. Like I said, I'd probably give it around an 8 for the design. You know, I'd give it a 9. I really like the design. I like the variability of it, and I like that it's able to be multiple things at once without compromising too much on those individual things. So, a 9 is fair. Next up, let's go to effectiveness. It's pretty effective. It's pretty effective. Now, there is a caveat there that obviously the original one didn't have such an aggressive spike. This is fair, and I do think that if we made one out of wood, that would reduce its overall effectiveness. That's fair. But even then, that's still around the 9 mark. For the wieldability of this thing, I didn't have any problem with it. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat. My one might not have been as big as the original ones. There is some variance in design from different movies and different eras, obviously. So the size isn't 100% either way. For the size that I had, the wieldability of it was pretty good. I think it's one of those things where it's one of those bonk sticks that's upgraded. It's like stick plus, stick premium. And I'm not going to deduct any points for it breaking because that's me, that's on me. I think it's the first time we've had one of these weapons fail in testing. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure it's the first time I've had a weapon that hasn't held up. Now, obviously it didn't hold up just because it's developing cracks down here. This wasn't 100% dry, which is why I usually don't want to use wood like this, but because I needed that complex shape, I didn't really have a choice. So for wieldability, I'm somewhere around, I'm gonna give it the 7 mark. I think it could probably be a little bit better, a little bit more refined, but at the same time, it's really good. It's pretty good. But that's gonna be all for today's episode, guys. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. You guys chose this one on the community tab as a poll for an episode to do, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I did it justice. Remember, if you wanna support this type of content and the channel itself, you can become a channel member down below. It all helps out the channel, guys, genuinely. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in another episode. Have a good one.